Hey everybody, Bill Owen from mnpctech. I am at the Smart Computer Store in Bloomington, Minnesota. Greg and I are looking at another new ITX case, and this time it's the T60 by ID Cooling. Greg, let's take a tour of this while I play the cameraman. Looks pretty cool, man. Different.
Yeah, there's some good angles to it. The two side panels are just held on by 4 thumb screws that aren't knurled, so they're not really thumb screws with straight plate.
This is all aluminum. There's no plastic at all in the construction of it.
Note that it does use a 92mm fan and has an extension for the power supply, because the power supply actually goes in the front.
What?
Exactly.
That's different. I'm guessing there's an explanation of its unique design and why the portion right here bows out a little bit.
To make it look cool.
It does look cool. I do like the look of
It's
it.
unique. It's unique. You know, you notice on the back it only has 2 slots because it's ITX, so you can fit a double wide card. And they say, what was the length of the 263mm GPU? Note it does have chrome feet with rubber inserts, so it won't scratch up your desk. You see the panels are pretty thick. It's probably 1.5mm in aluminum thickness. Seem pretty firm. Probably laser cut. I don't think they're stamped, but maybe. Punched, maybe punched. Same on both sides. So in theory you could use the same panel for both sides.
No filter though, doesn't look like.
No. And the front and top are continuous. They're connected together, but they're extruded aluminum. So they extrude that out. Put your panel up front, which basically just has the power button and probably a lighted power button. 2 USB 3.0s. Which aren't too long, which is good. You don't have a hard time putting them somewhere, routing them. You don't have to route extra. Got a spot for 2 SSDs, a spot in the top for a 3.5 inch. No optical support. It is kind of a weird setup, whereas it uses an SFX Power Supply, but the SFX Power Supply goes in the front, right here.
That's different.
And then that extension that comes from the back actually has to be plugged into the power supply, which has to be. There you go.
I've never seen a design like that before.
No. And the odd thing is that there's a lot of extra cable on that when they would know exactly where your power supply would put it. There's no real choice in where it puts it. You know, even if
No
you put
options.
even if you put it on this side, they know how long it's going to be, and it's on the opposite side. Should, you know, but that's because the motherboard goes back here. There again, probably 1mm aluminum, a little thinner. Spot for 2 SSDs, slotted holes so they can move a little. I don't know why they need that when they know exactly how big an SSD is going to be.
You can actually put 3 on there though, couldn't they? There's enough room for 3.
They could have.
They move it.
And I would assume that, yeah, a couple screws and you could remove this 3.5 bay, since many people don't use 3.5s anymore.
Little Gigabyte ITX board, the GA Z97N.
Looks like even with the 3.5 in there, you have plenty of clearance to get your memory in and out.
No real room to hide the cables behind the motherboard, though. There's not really any space back here.
No. No, and ironically, there's also no cutout for your CPU cooler.
No, there isn't.
So you have to pre-put your CPU cooler in the back before you stick it in.
Yeah, just a note.
It's kind of unnecessary since this whole other panel comes off.
I checked Newegg and I did not see this case on there, but I saw it on Amazon and eBay being sold by ID Cooling at a retail price of $79.99.
Yeah. Just take the side that has a scratch on it and put that on the inside. But there's identical. See, they could have put a cutout. This is also probably 1.5 mil aluminum. So with the strength of this panel and the strength of this panel, they certainly could have put a cutout for your CPU cooler.
Yeah.
Though, since it has a 92 mil fan in the back and no support for 120 mil or 140 mil, you're not going to put a liquid cooler in there anyway.
No.
Though with the board in there, you should have enough room for a decent cooler. Even with your 3.5-inch drive and your SSDs running across, you should still be able to get a decent height cooler. Maybe a Hyper 212, be pretty close. Another thing to note would be that even if you're using an SFX Power Supply, it's going to be sucking air from the inside of the case and exhausting it out the side, which there isn't a lot of vent because that's your only exhaust for your power supply. So it really reduces the amount of airflow to your SFX Power Supply. So you're probably limited to a 450 or 300, something like that. When you get to the big ones, 600 watts, it just might produce too much heat for it.
We're just going to check these different CPU coolers to see how much room we have.
We'll start with the easy one.
It's almond flour.
Yeah. Yeah, that should be absolutely
That's good.
No problem, plenty of room. Clearance for that rear fan even. I believe this is a TX3. Ooh, we're already getting.
Yeah, that's going to block the plate.
Well, that one, once you click it in, it's going to be really close. But you'll lose your SSDs then.
You know what they should have done is made it so you could also put the SSDs in the top too as an option.
You could run it in a tray.
Yeah, an adapter tray.
Yeah. Now with no intake on the side, you couldn't use even something like this.
Yeah.
There's one thing you could do. Acetech does make a 92 mil liquid cooler all-in-one. They only sell it on eBay. They don't sell it locally. They don't sell it on Newegg. But you could replace this 92 with a little rad, little fan, and then go liquid cooled. There's probably enough room to get the hoses in there and still get your SSDs in there. So that's certainly an option.
So it's an all-in-one cooler, 92 millimeter by Acetech.
Acetech, yes.
Yep, and they only sell it on eBay though. Is it their own Acetech store?
Yes.
That's
yes,
cool.
You can get it directly from Acetech, and that would be an option. They made it for server use, but anything with a 92 mil fan, stock HPs, OEM, stock Dells, a lot of stuff out there with 92 mil only rear fans. You could go liquid cooling that way.
So this is a what?
This is a 560 Ti. It looks like the main problem is actually going to be this front edge here. So you probably only have 10-inch card. You might not be able to get a Titan-based motherboard card or GPU card. They say 263 millimeters, and I think the 10.5-inch cards, I think if someone can correct me or if I'm wrong, but I think that's 265.
Keep this in mind though, when you have the GPU on the bottom, you've got lots of vents in this floor, and you've got, of course, the exhausts from the back of the card. So it's not such a bad design from that aspect, you know, having that ventilation there for your GPU.
Sure.
But it's not filtered. I would have liked to seen some filters.
And you can't even use a magnetic filter because it's aluminum.
Right.
So you could probably put screw inserts in and then magnet that to the
All right, moving a bigger video card in here. What is this?
It's a 660 Ti. So it would actually fit a Titan length card, a 10.5-inch Titan length card. And it has good intake from the bottom and some weird screw holes for something, but not a fan.
Yeah, that was weird. Was we noticed that there's 2 screw holes in the back here, right there, and then there's another set way up here. They match up to a 120, but there's no the additional screw holes are missing. But then if you put a 120 in here as an intake, you'd be blocking your video card from installing. So.
Of course, some people don't go with GPUs when they're going with ITX.
That's true. So you could, if you didn't have a video card in here, use at least one 120 fan.
You'd have to DIY your own hole.
Yeah, you have to drill additional holes in the center because they're missing. I don't know if that was that intentional, maybe just an oversight by them.
Maybe they do sell a filter that, you know.
Maybe they do have a
you
filter.
You can put your screws in and then put your magnetic filter material onto there.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird too. The feet have the same separation as a fan. See how they're the same, pretty close.
Oh, so that may have been like an original location for the feet, and they decided to move them out, or maybe giving people the option to relocate the feet.
I don't know. If you removed your feet, could you? No, it doesn't line up with anything. It just doesn't.
Just doesn't want to go in. Greg wants that 240 to go in there so bad. Definitely could go with a little skinnier.
It makes you wonder why they wouldn't at least make it just a little bit longer, a little bit bigger here and there to compensate for that, for the, you know, to be able to put a 120 in the back.
Right.
You know, make it half-inch wider and
right.
half-inch longer so you could put a pair of fans in the bottom.
I like the overall design of it. I just think that I agree that it could have been bigger and it would offer so much more options. The overall design just seems to be a little bigger.
Or some ingenuity, a bracket, a special bracket that mounts in there that this fan, the 2 fans could go on. Because if you measure from where these fan holes are, and then you go to here, you could get it on the upper level. So they could have put 2 more holes here and 2 more holes here and a spacer or something.
I bet you, Greg, they weren't even thinking about fans down there. It's about those feet, and they relocated them, or giving people the option to move them toward the center on the bottom.
Yeah, or even a pair of slots right here, so that you could either choose this fan or this fan.
Right.
If you're not going to put a GPU in.
If you're putting holes in a plate anyways, why not just add some more options to it while you're at it?
Or if you're putting a single wide card, you know, a simple, like, I don't know, GT 930, if there's such a thing yet, 730, you know, a single slot card, maybe you could fit a fan in there. You'd fit a skinny fan, like a 15 mil, whoever makes those skinny fans. Can't think of it.
Polimitech and Scythe.
So you could put a pair of skinny Polimitech,
15 millimeter thick,
and then a single wide GPU to make an HTPC box that has some good ventilation.
And just get some filters that you can screw on the front of the fans, on the bottom, room on the bottom, so it buys you a little bit of room.
I think like most of the companies that are entering the market, I don't think they did enough research. They wanted to design something that looked cool, that had a cool look to it, but in doing so, I think they forgot some of the, things that enthusiasts want. You can see that this plate here is at the front already, but yet the screw holes are off. That's a small thing, but it just shows quality control wasn't really there. That when they designed it, they should have just put it in the right spot.
Yeah. I just remembered that I had something in my pocket.
What, that'd be the lunch box?
The little land box.
Yes, the land box. See, that would work out well.
Yeah.
You might have to get an Ace-Tech liquid cooler or a tiny system. Or realistically, if you have enough airflow, it wouldn't be a problem. Yeah, through this extruded cover, it'd be easy. A couple holes and away you go. Looks like it's definitely strong enough. That's at least 2 mil. Front is 2.5, 3 mil.
Well, you've also got that space right there to make a fan opening or a grill.
So if you put an 80 mil in the front center, at least you could use intake air.
Yeah, definitely filter it. Again.
Filtered 80 mil. Put it on the front.
Well, it's an interesting little case. I do like the design of it. I think that ID Cooling could definitely do a bit more homework and research.
I like the construction. I like the fact that they use the extruded aluminum that was thick enough to do some modding products to. It's not a real thin material that's going to flex and not stand up. I like that it's small, but I think it could be smaller.
You want to go even smaller?
I would say that they either make it bigger so you can support 240 or even some 120 fans, or you make it smaller so it stays about like it is. They obviously slope the front back so that they could put that longer GPU in the bottom. And I like the finish because it's now it does look like it will scratch possibly, but it shouldn't show fingerprints because it has this pebbly finish, this, I don't know, metal flake, I don't know, what do you call that?
Yeah, it's a flake. It's like a powder coat flake finish.
I like that both side panels can swap from side to side. So if you change your mind or you do something on one side, you can move to the other, or you can do it to both, or, two chances to screw up.
I agree. I like the overall design of it. I'd like to see it bigger. So, not a mid-tower size, but just maybe a few inches bigger. Because I think they're on the right path with this design, but not being able to put a 240 in it in the floor, just because so many companies now are offering all-in-ones in 240 or even just a 120. What I would have liked to have seen is some type of filters. You don't hear me say that much, but I think in this case you definitely want to have some filtration for the GPU, drawing up the air through the bottom vents. The screws that hold on the panels, it would have been nice if those were thumb screws instead with knurling versus having to grab a flat head screwdriver.
But they wanted a clean look, and using chrome-plated or nickel-plated smooth thumb screws as they are actually gives it that clean look.
A clean look, yeah.
Yeah, it's they minimized the front by just having USB 3 and the power button. They could have added a reset button or whatever, but I think they wanted to keep it clean. I do think they should have put some type of filtration on the bottom, because your most expensive part, your GPU, is going to be in the bottom if you're not going to use it for intake fans.
Yeah.
And if they had spaced those fan holes correctly, or whatever those holes were, then you'd be putting fans down there and going, without a GPU.
Everything is all metal. It's all aluminum. It's easy to dismantle. I like that about it. At the $79 price point, I don't think that's terribly high. It is a premium price for an ITX case, but
it is all aluminum.
Yeah.
That's probably the thing that drives the price.
Yeah.
I mean, if it were all steel, or even if it had some steel, it would be $59.95 or $49.95.
Yeah.
There are a lot of other brands that make steel cases with plastic fronts, and they can sell those for $50.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, you sold me at $79 isn't so bad. Yeah, there is lots of ideas for a DIYer, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I think ID Cooling should consider some of our suggestions and maybe come out for revision, or even consider having a slightly bigger one, as I suggested.
A T70.
Yeah, a T70. Yeah, because it is a cool design. I like the design. Now, since it is, in our opinion, like a little project case, we're going to give away this review sample that we got from ID Cooling. And all you have to do to enter this giveaway is just tell us what you would do after watching our video. What kind of modifications would you make? And don't just say, I'd put a system in it. No, actually come up with something creative that catches my eye, and I'll send it to you. And I'll also include some of the fans that ID Cooling sent me. And show us on the Modzu community forums what you're doing with it so we can watch. Does that sound like a fair enough deal?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and open it to all countries. My giveaways are open to all countries. All you have to do is in the comments on YouTube is just tell us what you would do if you had this ID Cooling T60 case. You could take some of our ideas or maybe incorporate some stuff that you caught that we didn't and do something cool with it. And I'll just post a date in the video description of the deadline to get your comments in, and I'll announce the winner's name in the comments the day of. So good luck to everybody, and thanks again to ID Cooling for sending us this sample, and we hope to see more new stuff from ID Cooling in the future.